My talk today is about stress technology and unexpected insights that we've found inside the classroom as we're studying children with autism. It's one aspect of our research. And the story began about a decade and a half ago when we started to see a really large increase in the numbers of children who were being referred to us for our residential program. And we serve some of the most complex children who have autism spectrum disorders, but the numbers just started to explode. And the number one criteria, or the comorbidity associated with the autism, was of course anxiety, and it was perfect that Alec just spoke before me, but anxiety was the number one problem in terms of the comorbidities. And parents were telling us that stress, and not just stress on the child, but stress on the family was their major concern. And it wasn't just for our residential program. We also see children in the public schools, and teachers as well as families of these children were also reporting anxiety as a major problem. So we decided to assemble a team of really fantastic researchers to really help us figure out what is the role of stress and how is it affecting learning inside the classroom and functioning inside the home environment, and how is it really affecting the dynamics of the family. And so I'll just share with you, a little while ago, I received this Bitmoji from my project manager, Megan, who's sitting at a computer in Harris, New York, but she's connected, via Bluetooth to the sensor that I'm wearing right now, which is measuring my stress level. And she texted me to say, "You're a little stressed." I said, "Yeah, I am." But sometimes a little stress is good. So I was able to do a little deep breathing, not so bad. I calmed myself down, and here I am in front of all of you. However, when it comes to children with autism, stress is not so easily calmed, nor is it easily understood. It's heightened, it's chronic, and it can worsen over time. And we really see it as a biological form of communication that needs to be understood. And so these are some of the statistics. Children with autism disorders experience more stress and anxiety than typically developing peers. And anxiety is one of the most commonly co-occurring psychiatric disorders in autism. Cold, hard, scientific facts. But it's like saying depression is a factor in suicide. It misses the urgency of the situation here. Children with autism are being misdiagnosed, or stress is really underappreciated in these children, and it needs to be paid attention to. So many people have seen this. This is a large-scale study from Kaiser Permanente. This is on adults, that adults with autism experience anxiety at 117% higher than their typical peers. And I show you this because the point is that anxiety doesn't just go away. It doesn't get better over time. As a matter of fact, it can get significantly worse. And so we set out to really think about stress and anxiety. And these are our objectives of our research program, but can we identify and really measure stress inside a dynamic classroom environment? Could we determine the root causes of some of the stressors that were affecting the children? Could we predict stress before it manifests itself in maladaptive behaviors? And could we devise methods to prevent or reduce the stress effects? So we, as I said, assembled a group of researchers and developed 2 classrooms that are totally instrumented, and we're really looking at what is called deep data. We're reflecting on our own practices. We're trying to understand if the interventions that we're trialing inside these classrooms are really helping to reduce that stress effect and increase functioning in these kids. So all of our children and our staff inside the classroom wear the same monitors that I'm wearing right now. The environment is set up with cameras and microphones, and then we have technology developed by Georgia Tech and some of the folks at Emory that really helps us better integrate all of that and understand what's happening with these kids. So this is what the lab classroom actually looks like. On the left, there are the 8 camera views, and on the right, you can hone in on any one of those views, but that's a classroom with 3 students. Some of the students wear the technology on their wrists, some of them wear it on their ankle. And there's a teacher in the middle there who's instructing the kids. All the staff are also wearing it. And then right next to the classroom is the lab or the control room where the scientists are sitting and they're actually visualizing what's happening in real time with that classroom. And that data is all getting stored. So we have this huge corpus of data right now that we're studying to really understand the stress effect on these children. So I'm going to show you a video right now. So we're going to look at this boy right here. So this is messy. This is a classroom in real time. It's very dynamic. I'll tell you, there's a lot going on, so you're going to concentrate on him. And this is his raw data, his EDA, electrodermal activity. So in this first section, in section A, he's fairly calm. In section B, his stress level starts to rise, but the classroom staff are actually oblivious because he's sitting fairly calmly. You see a couple of little incidents there, but typical, he'll slam the table a little bit. But they had no idea that he was going to erupt into a severe behavior. And they said, oh, it just happened out of the blue. And the staff inside the lab are saying, not really, you had a good 2 minutes to intervene before that happened. So let's take a look at this video. If you could play that for me.
Wow.
Danny, how many types of...
So again, we're focusing on him. Kid makes a noise. So you see one little tap on the table there.
3.
So a little bit of sound sensitivity. Some days it's worse than others. So right here, he's totally stressed. I mean, significantly. Teacher's continuing on as though nothing's happening. She has no idea.
Okay, which one's the biggest? The sand, the silt, or the clay? Which one's
Still
the
asking him
biggest?
questions.
Not the clay. Which one's the biggest? The sand,
So here comes the behavior. Pretty significant. Really concerning in terms of spinal integrity, but it looked as though it happened right out of the blue. But indeed, we had that period of time before. So as it turns out, this boy is doing remarkably well. He was just down here with a show, seeing one of the plays here, a show with his family, able to go out into the community, go on long trips. But what we found out is that he had some significant medical issues, some GI issues, and he had a sound sensitivity. But it wasn't until we captured him and watched it several times that we really figured out what was going on inside that dynamic classroom. So I'm going to show you a series of other raw data, but this represents 3 spikes in electrodermal activity. And when you overlay that with video in particular, what we see is that this child is engaging in pretty significant head slapping behavior. So those 3 spikes are associated with that behavior. And then the teacher trials an intervention, and this is what happens. This is in the real classroom. We're trialing things. We don't know if they're working or not, because some days they work, some days they don't. But in this particular case, the teacher holds the child's arms, and if we could go back just one, holds the child's arm and does some deep squeezes. And what we see when that happened is that his EDA, his measure of stress, actually calmed down. So that intervention was very successful. The teacher was able to go into the lab classroom later on and say, hey, did that work? And obviously you have real hard scientific data to say, yeah, that technique did work for that boy. Now you overlay what's called co-regulation. Stress is contagious. When somebody gets upset and you're viewing it or you're in the vicinity, everybody gets upset. So in a classroom of kids with autism, when one child has a behavior, everybody has some level of stress elevation. And that's what's happening inside the families. When their child is in distress, the whole family is in distress. So it's a very, very serious issue. But in this particular instant, we have the boy in the blue, who's right up here. When this child stress began to rise, this boy, out of the blue again, teacher says, he reached over and hit the other child. And he said, he's not a violent kid. Why did he hit him? Well, he was just as stressed as this kid. And then when this kid began to decrease, this child in the blue also, the stress level began to decrease. So we have this replicated time and time again. We can see whole classrooms elevated. We can do strategies to really help prevent that or intervene with that. And we can see whole classrooms decrease in their stress. So now we want to go from insights to innovation. So this is lab stuff. So what we posed to our researchers was, can we have a technology that's more portable? Can we use this when we're taking the kids out and trying to introduce them to a restaurant? And how can that happen? So we're working with a company right now, and there are several companies that are doing this, but Numitra in particular. So they developed for us this just-in-time alert, which is what my administrative assistant got, and she was able to call me to say, you're getting stressed, calm down. But if a child is getting stressed, the classroom teacher or the family, if you're out to dinner with your child and they're starting to get stressed, you'll get an alert. Your phone will buzz, and you'll know that your child is experiencing something. So you can make a decision as a mom or dad to say, let's end dinner, or let's continue and let's give our child a strategy, or even just sometimes acknowledging it to the child that I know it's noisy in here, but it's okay, helps reduce that level of stress. We also do there's live stream tracking. There's a whole bunch of features on this technology. But this is what's really important. It's now physiology in context. So you can upload the calendar. So you know exactly, obviously, what activities in particular are stressing a particular child out. So in the case in the middle one here, you know, we all think that the dentist is stressful, but here we have scientific quantifiable data that says for this kid, the dentist was stressful. And when he got back to the classroom, the teacher looked and said, you know what, that was really tough for you. So let's just take a break before we start again. And just that acknowledgement really helped that child in particular. So we have monthly views, we have all different kinds of views. We're also starting to do self-monitoring with kids. This young girl, you know, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. She understands how to track her own stress now. So after an activity, she tells the teacher, I felt like I was, you know, sweaty, which is red, and she confirms that then on her watch. So doing a remarkable job. So in summary, we're starting to really understand behaviors in a new way, and we're appreciating that chronic stress can be paralyzing and it's contagious. We're now starting to advance technologies to help us see distress in real time so that we can better support children and their families. And the unexpected insight has been empathy. This is really a partnership between humans and technology, and the technology is not supplanting the human, but it's facilitating a conversation now. It's bringing us all closer together, and we're becoming more empathic. So I encourage all of you to join us, and let's change the conversation around autism and really begin to help these children in real time in their homes and in their classroom environments. So thank you very much.